we're not just little working robots. We can't leave our personal lives at the door when we come in the morning.
Flexibility in the workplace has changed dramatically over the last number of years, since COVID really. And organisations they have to be a bit more flexible now, and they have to take flexible working approaches. What sort of things does that look like for workplaces to put in place?
You're absolutely right. I think before COVID, we had this approach that everybody had to be in the office for the exact same hours every single day, but we never really stopped to question, is that what's working, both for the business itself and for the employees within it? Are people turning up to the office every day and actually lacking in productivity because it doesn't fit in with the rest of their lives? Mm-hmm. And when we think about flexible working, it's not just about employee benefits, but it's also that people are more productive when they're able to balance both their work needs and their personal needs. And I guess it's about remembering that it doesn't have to be an all or nothing approach. It's not just about remote working and that if you're not in the office, then you have to be at home. It could be a hybrid approach, but it could also be flexibility when it comes to things like your start and end time.
Yeah.
For me, having a level
small changes.
100%. I do some further education outside of my working life, and having some level of flexibility with work allows me to commit to my studies, but also commit fully to my working life. And it really improves my motivation, my morale, my productivity in the hours that I am in work. And I'm sure for you as a working parent, a level of flexibility is essential.
It is completely essential. And that ranges from school drop-offs, school pickups, unexpected appointments. Things just crop up in life, and having a flexible organisation means the world. And as you said, it doesn't mean working at home 4 out of 5 days a week. It can mean a different start time or a different end time. And it can mean a more permanent change, or it can mean just a quick, flexible change for that day. Yeah. And it's about having that open communication. And our hub offers resources and guidance on that.
Yeah, I think it's remembering as well that, for you, your house might be busy and chaotic, and working from home might be a really fantastic opportunity. For somebody who lives alone, that might be a really lonely and isolating opportunity. Yes. So it's making sure that you have accessible support, whether that's, online support or through your manager. And our hub's a really big part of that. We have seen hugely that for people who travel for work or they work from home a lot, being able to log on and see either live webinars or pre-recorded webinars talking about, things like tackling isolation, working well at home and looking after your mental health whilst you're doing that they can look up signposting and support organisations, even if they just have an hour in the evening to do that, or they can read an article that equips them on self-help for managing anxiety or low mood. Having those resources available 24 hours a day. And I think as well, one of the big things that we do is equipping managers to manage well when it comes to working from home, flexible working arrangements. There can be a bit of fear around flexible working.
Yeah, and that's where we come in. Action Mental Health workplaces can come in and support, because we know organisations might be fearful of change. They might be fearful of opening that door to a world of flexibility, but the fear of not doing it can be as damaging. And we want your staff to be happy, healthy, and thriving in the workplace. And some flexibility is needed to get there and to prevent burnout as well. And we can do this through a range of different provisions. One being training all levels of employees on flexible working, training managers on how to have those conversations and what does flexible working look like? What does reasonable adjustment look like? What is remote working? Can you do hybrid working? So it's not to be fearful of it, it's to embrace it. We want to retain talent. We want organisations to keep the right people in work.
Mm-hmm. So it's not really about, well, what happens if I put this in place? It's more about what happens if I don't. Yeah. In order to have good retention, but also a healthy, happy, thriving and productive workforce, we need to put in place policies, procedures, practices that support employees on an individual level, that recognise that we're not just little working robots. We can't leave our personal lives at the door when we come in the morning. So Action Mental Health, a huge part of what our workplaces team does is walk you through that. There doesn't have to be a reason to be scared about it, because we're there at every stage of the process, whether that's training, whether it's consultancy, or whether that's online support.
It's what, yep. It's what organisations have to adhere to, because we know employees have the right to ask for flexible working. And we're not saying say yes to everything, because we know that's not sustainable. But through working with multiple organisations over the last number of years, and more recently through our Workplace Wellbeing Hub, we offer a workplace assessment. And when we do those surveys, Lauren, you do get results, and you do see that flexibility question coming back as a bit of an issue and a bit of a barrier for organisations. And what provisions do we want to put in place for organisations to make more of a positive impact?
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime that I do an organisational wellbeing assessment, you'd be surprised how frequently employees are saying flexibility or lack of flexibility is one of the biggest factors that's affecting their wellbeing at work. And we try and think about, okay, well, how can we make a measurable and evidence-based impact to that aspect, that domain of wellbeing? And we do that in a few different ways. So the first is building people-centered policies. We want to have policies that work for those employees.
And that's where we support, because we can support on bringing employees in to consult on that and getting the right people in the right room to make a workplace policy that works for everybody.
Absolutely. So it's all very well having a policy in place, but you need employees to want to use it. So it needs to be built for them as well as for the organisation. The second part of that is training managers in that policy. Do they feel confident? Do they feel equipped to have conversations about flexible working, to explore what that might look like on an individual basis? We're about thinking about individuality, equity when it comes to these things. It will look different for everyone, but everybody should have fair access to those opportunities. And flexibility is right within the workplace. So how do managers facilitate those conversations well to balance both organisational needs and individual needs? And then the last part of that is flexibility sometimes just means that not everybody is working at the same time in the same place. So how do we look after wellbeing in a flexible working world? And our hub is such a massive part of that. It's about creating resources that are accessible at any time, but also creating a sense of community where people are able to learn together, to share their own perspectives, to log on to a lunch and learn, and to kind of hear a colleague talk about how do they manage their well-being at work. And that one tool that colleague shares might be the thing that they bring into their working week. So we want to approach flexible working from those three pillars in order to create a really comprehensive and effective approach.
And that's the definition of flexibility, the Workplace Wellbeing Hub, because you can access it at any time. So if you're maybe starting at an earlier time than someone else on your team, you can still join and watch a lunch and learn recording. You can still download a resource at 9 p.m. at night if you decide you need it. And that really is the best part of the Workplace Wellbeing Hub.
Hi, I'm Lauren from the Action Mental Health Workplace Wellbeing team. If you enjoyed today's video and want to find out more about our services, please see the link in the comments below.